very specific question, Minister, in relation to the Help to Buy scheme, which I've been following up since the review was announced. And so what is the status of the review, and what person or what body is carrying it out? When will it be completed?
I want to thank the Deputy for raising this issue, and the Deputy said she's consistently raised this matter on a number of occasions in the past with the Minister for Finance. So the Help to Buy scheme incentive is a scheme to assist first-time purchasers with the deposit they need to buy or build a new home or apartment. I'm saying this, the Deputy knows it, but for those listening in, there's so many different schemes I want to put on the record which one we're talking about. The incentive gives a refund of income tax on deposit interest retention tax paid to the state over the previous 4 years, subject to limits outlined in the legislation. And the Consolidation Act 1997 outlines the definitions and conditions that apply to the scheme. As the Deputy is aware, the Minister of Finance Budget 2022 address, he announced a formal review of the scheme would take place this year. The contract for the review has been awarded to Mazars following a competitive tender. So I think that's new information I have here this morning that we didn't have the last time we spoke. The selection from a number of bidders was in accordance with the relevant public sector procurement guidelines for procurements in the range of 25,000 to 144,000. The most economically advantageous tender was selected, and that was the Mazars. I'm informed that work on the review is underway and in keeping with the terms of reference provided in the request for tenders, and these terms of reference are as follows: to examine all aspects of the Help to Buy scheme. In doing so, the review should explore the cost and efficiency of the scheme to date, including the issues of dead weight. It should also examine the impact of the scheme on house prices since inception. The findings should present an assessment on a national basis while highlighting any regional aspects, and having regard to the government's Housing for All strategy, and in particular the other initiatives, including the Housing for All, have the same broad policy objectives as currently applied to the scheme, to examine whether there is a continued role for the Help to Buy, and if so, to present options on how such a role might be fulfilled in the medium and the most cost-effective manner. And as part of the overall context, the review should draw on experience internationally and offer views in this regard. The study should be completed by the close of business on Friday, the 24th of June. So Mazars have been appointed since we spoke last, and there is a deadline, and as soon as that happens, the Minister will be able to consider that report with a view to publication, I'm sure, in due course.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks very much, Minister, and thank you for that. When were they appointed precisely, and will the report be produced by the closing date on the 24th of June? Because it seems extraordinary, a tight time after this review was announced back in October 21. It's taken this long. First of all, I welcome that we have positive news, but I do want clarification on it, and I also want to know the cost of it. We have a range here in terms of procurement guidelines between 25,000 and 144,000. And of course, the background is very important. This was introduced in the budget in 16 for 17, as you well know. It was predicted to cost 40 million per year, and it was 4 times that cost. From January to November alone, 21, it had cost 167 million, which was over 4 times. I understand now it's more than $500 million, and we don't know if it's value for money. We do know from various reports and from various comments, Professor Kieran McQueen, ESRI, he said in October 21 that the existing scheme was adding to demand pressures. We know from the Parliamentary Budget Office that 41% of the applicants had no need for deposit assistance.
Minister.
Okay, again I want to thank the Deputy for saying that. And just to clarify, because maybe it sounds a little bit confusing, maybe the Deputy understands it, but in case everybody didn't watch it, the selection for a number of bidders was in accordance with the relevant public procurement guidelines for procurements in the range of 25,000 to 144,000. So in other words, it was expected a tender would be within that range. That's not necessarily the price, that we haven't given the price. So I don't have the price here today. I'm straight up. They've recently been appointed, and I think they were only appointed I saw somewhere that it might have been, and the tenders closed on the 28th of April. I think I saw in my notes earlier, they might have been appointed around the 28th of April or some date like that. But don't hold me to that. I'm speaking from recollection on that particular issue. And then I take on board the views of the Deputy. Been historic in Ireland that the Irish government and the Irish taxpayer has also always supported a form of home ownership over the decades, part of the Irish psyche, and this is another element that reinforces that.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy?
I would, Minister, appreciate on when clarification, when specifically they were appointed. Will they be able to comply with the deadline of the 24th of June, which is tomorrow week? And then in relation to the actual cost, I understand the range. I'd like to know the specific cost for the contract duration. Will it be published? And then your comment in relation to the psychic and home ownership. I don't believe that this is a way of helping home ownership. I believe that this is an inflationary procedure which adds to the prices, and we can see that over 40% didn't need help with a deposit, and we're talking about houses up to 600,000. That's not a way to increase affordability or help people gain ownership. I have a completely different view, and in the few seconds I won't go into it, but it's well on the record. I am absolutely for public housing and ownership of housing, but not in the manner that we're doing it, which is piecemeal, like a jigsaw, and adding all the time to the cost. So specifically on the question, it's supposed to be a fundamental review. How much is it costing? Will it be done by next Friday week? And will it be published immediately?
Thank you, Deputy, for those additional. Some of that information I'm personally to hand, but I will ask officials, and I'm sure they're watching, to forward as much information in relation to the specific query directly to the Deputy in the coming days. Not sure whether they can give you the price or not. Maybe they can. I don't know the answer to that here. But insofar as what can be granted or made available, I'd ask the Department to supply it to the Deputy in the coming days. And we won't. There's a broader issue. I'm in favour of generally the scheme, the Deputy might not, but that's a broader issue rather than the specifics of this scheme. I was a beneficiary of, getting income tax relief on my mortgage interest, in the day. It's gone now. I think most people, it's a part of the Irish psyche to get some help when you're buying a house. That's gone. This is a different scheme. Some people think it's a good idea. I personally do. Some people have reservations. But that's a larger debate, I think, for another day.